And then when you went down on the other side, they found out before you got there, and then they had an opportunity to correct you, and before you got home, your mother had the whole story, and she corrected or even spanked you altogether. You know, this might sound like a harsh thing to do today, but there is something special about living life, doing your absolute best because of so many in the village who held us accountable for our actions. Miss the days where you can correct someone and just tell them what the right thing to do, and you didn't have to worry about the mother or the father coming after you. Because we all as a community knew it was just the right thing to do. And so for this reason, I believe the enemy has set up a playground in his attempt to divide us because of our differences generationally. Let me say it this way. The enemy doesn't want us all to be on one accord. Appreciate the diversity of our generations today and those before us. James Costin wrote in the Journal of the Interdenominational Theological Center, we must take advantage of the past. To neglect them is to repudiate the mysterious, wonderful ways of God, and has led each generation to capture the moment. God has led each generation to capture the moment. You know, that is what the enemy wants to do. And some of his best work, he shows it when we are divided. John 10:10 says, the thief comes not come except to steal and to kill and to destroy. But we know God came to give us life and life more abundantly. The enemy not only does his best work when we are ourselves experiencing life transitions, but he lives in our diverse culture. The enemy does his best work in the midst of racial divide and police brutality. Shout out to Colin Kaepernick, who overcame diversity. He does his best work in the midst of political differences and classism, where the climate of our country seems to be more divided than ever. He does his best work trying to divide us by gender, trying to plant seeds of inadequacy and confusion at the workplace and at homes. But the devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. We are significant in the eyes of God because God is in fact sovereign. How many of us know that God is sovereign? It doesn't matter if you're a man, if you're a woman, if you're a child, if you're a boy, God is in control. But the same God who was with the baby boomers, any baby boomers in here? The same God that were with the Generation Xers. We are the Generation X. The ones that come between the baby boomers and the millennials. How many of us are in here? Shout you out if you're a millennial. I got a new term too, Brother Stokely. My term is called level up. And I believe we all as a generation have to come together. It doesn't matter the generational differences, and it doesn't matter what we did when we were growing up and how things are today. I believe it's time for all of us to level up. Look at somebody and tell them, let's level up together. In our text today, we witness Paul working to inspire a diverse community. Romans 12:4, for as many members in one body, all members have not the same office. One thing we know for sure is Paul has experience about trying to bring people together. From our differences and our opinions, our political spectrums, Paul wants us to come together. He's specifically talking about the church. Now, I know many assume that the church is always on the same page. But there's differences in our culture, upbringings, and things that we have done different that the devil wants to get in and start to interrupt and keep us divided as people. But it is our responsibility to hear those who have come before us. And Paul has given us this example as he did in the preceding text. In 1 Corinthians, the 11th chapter, 17, Paul teaches a lesson about how some people were taking communion by themselves. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but the word itself, communion, means for us to come together and remember God. But he shared a very important verse in 33 when he said, don't do that. You must come together and eat as one. In our verse today, 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter, in my verse, it says, there are diversities of gift, but the same Spirit. The enemy will have us to think our gifts are not as significant as our neighbors. But I want to share a couple of points to y'all. The first one I'll share, what's for me is for me. Can I share a quick story? Well, my wife, she sings. She's amazing. She just does everywhere. I'm crying everywhere, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm crying. She can sing gospel, I'm crying. She can sing whatever she's saying, I'm crying. She's just amazing to me. If nobody else, baby, you're amazing to me. The first time I heard her sing and we were spending time together, I said, man, she inspired me so much, Deanberg. I said, maybe she can teach me how to sing like that. I think if she can give me a couple lessons, I'll be just fine. So she wouldn't teach me, she just laughed at me. So I went to YouTube. Yeah, I went to YouTube, it's a true story. Y'all think I'm joking, it's a true story. I went to YouTube and I was trying to figure out, Brother Paul, how to exercise my vibrato. And I found a gentleman on there who was teaching me how to do that. And he was going, woo, 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 woo. So she came home one day and she heard me going, woo, 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 woo. She said, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying to do what you do because wherever you go, you tear down. So I want to be like that. Wherever I go, I can do it. And so she said, no, baby, you can't have it. It's gonna work that way. And I was just determined. But what I learned in that experience is that her gift is to sing. And so God gave her the gift to sing, and he has given me a gift to do something totally different. And I don't know who's in here today, but you may be discouraged because you see somebody get up and do something that you saying, my God, you real good at that, and you may want to try to do what they're doing. But God has created each and every one of us differently. He's given us different gifts. He's given us something, a different assignment. It is the diversities of God that brings us here together. So we serve a God who embraces diversity. The second thing, our gifts belong to God. Somebody say our gifts belong to God. I know you think you did real good getting good at what you're doing in church. But can I share something? Our gifts belong to God. Verse 5 says, there are differences of ministries, but the same Lord. The reality is too many of us are sitting on our gifts in church. Can I be real with somebody? The moment we are sitting on our gifts in church, just here filling up spaces, and yet you can do something to progress ministry. Can I challenge somebody today? Is that okay? We have to challenge each other. I hear it a lot. Oh, this person is always doing this. And oh, that person is always doing that. I can't wait for the Sunday to come where somebody say, you know what, I'll do the prayer today. You take a break, I'll do the prayer today. I know that's not orderly, deacon, but you know what? When God has inspired you so much to do something, you can't sit on your gift. You have to stand before the people and you have to let people know that God is calling me to do something major. So it's just too much to sit on. We have to make sure that we're sharing our gifts. Psalms 23, 6 and 8 says, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. God's got your back. Can I just remind somebody that in all that you do, God has got your back. So if you're waiting on God, guess what? I got news for you. God's waiting on you. He's giving every single body a gift in this place. And you talking about, well, I'm just waiting for God. And God is sitting in the back because his word says grace and mercy shall follow us. So if he follows us, every step I take, he's going to go with me. Do I have any believers in the house tonight? Facts. This is facts. God's got our back. And if we choose to share our uniqueness in ministry, it will tell a compelling story of God's greatness. In 2011, a group of us came together and started this amazing platform called Awesome God Radio. It scared me that God asked me to do radio, and I had no experience in radio whatsoever. No background in communications. I didn't even know anybody in the studio, and he wanted me to do radio. Can y'all hear me applying for a job for radio? And the people say, well, what are your credentials? And I say, listen, God sent me here. I don't have any credentials. I know about filing paperwork. I know a little bit about sales, but I don't know anything about radio. And they laughed me off. But then he said, go ahead, go forth, start this thing. And a group of us together came together and created Awesome God Radio. Now, today we have 25 shows, tens of thousands of people across the world listening, tuned in, inspired 24/7 with Awesome God Radio. Why do I share that? Because if I wanted to be in the mold of what I grew up with ministry, it would have been a different story. Radio wouldn't have never been in the scope. But because I had to dare to step out, to be diverse in my gifts, it caused me to do something different that ultimately brought God the glory. Any witnesses in here knows that when you stepped out and did what you're supposed to do for God, it eventually panned out. Thank you, my sister. I appreciate you. We have to challenge each other to do what God has called us to do. Finally, present our gifts to God. And here's the good thing. Let Him work through our uniqueness. That's it. That's good, isn't it? Present our gifts to God and let Him present or work through our uniqueness. Let me put it this way. Don't be afraid to play the hand that God dealt you. Don't be afraid to play the hand that God dealt you. Just recently we had a spades tournament. I won't tell y'all who won, but y'all already know. And I posted a hand I had on Facebook. And one of the most amazing things is that I had probably 200 people tell me 200 different books that I had on spades. Anybody know spades? You got to count your books before you play. 200 people in 200 different arrangements. Some said 6 and a possible. Some said 7. Some said 9. Some said 1 and 5 possibles. And it's just crazy. It's just too many people to respond to. And so we had the spades tournament. I posted it, and I realized something that black folk don't know nothing about spades. You may think you know, but we don't know anything about spades. But here's the thing. Everybody knows there's only one card in the whole hand that's an absolute book. Where are my spades players? There's only one card in the whole hand that's an absolute book. And so here's the inspiration for today. When you put your cards in God's hand, when you put your cards in God's hands, every card is an absolute book. My God, when you put it in His hand, it don't matter if it's the deuce of diamonds, if it's the 3 of clubs, it doesn't matter what it is. You ain't got even trumps in your hand to trump the cards of God. Because God wants to take everything and use it for our glory. Listen, I'm grateful to have this opportunity to stand before y'all today. And I love the fact that many generations have come together for this great occasion. I want to remind y'all somebody about Jesus. I know that this is Millennial Sunday, and sometimes people have the perspective that millennials are up and coming. But if we were to use today's vernacular about who Jesus was, He would be a millennial. Amen, somebody. And so we are here today inspired by the works of young people, young minds. He didn't just call other millennials, as Brother Varner said, he brought other brothers up in age to come together. And he did this thing called ministry. Can we get anybody excited about God that's ready to work together, bringing our gifts together? If we could just glorify God, put our hands together and just thank Him for this diverse community. God bless you.